Chapter 3 Indian Democracy Challenges and Response. India is a proud country with one of the highest population and a successful democracy. India became independent on 15th August 1947 and right from the independence, we adopted the democratic pattern of government. This has been incorporated in the preamble of our constitution and once our country was declared a democratic republic. As a result of the long relationship with Western countries, we adopted freedom of person, representative government, and rule of law. Because of association with Britain and experience of British administrative system, we have adopted the parliamentary democratic pattern of government. Indian democracy has faced several challenges. Some of the challenges faced by us since independence have been historical inherited. One of the major challenges of Indian democracy is social-economic inequality. How can a democracy grow in a place where there are excessive inequalities? Similarly, illiteracy is also a challenge to democracy. Regional imbalance, the inequality between different regions is dangerous for democracy and national unity. Problems like regionalism and linguistic poisonous arise from this. Besides, communalism, casteism, separatism, political violence, Naxalite movement, and terrorism are also challenges to Indian democracy. We have initiated efforts to face these challenges in a democratic way. We have succeeded sometimes and failed at other times in these efforts. The framers of the Indian Constitution adopted democracy not just as a desired system based on the principle of people's participation, but also a system to achieve the principle of social and economic justice. Thus, democracy ensures inequality of rights for all in respective caste, race, gender, and place of birth. Challenges to Indian democracy. Social-economic inequality is clearly visible in India. We all know that Indian society is based on caste system and the roots of inequality lie in the caste system. Along with social inequality, economic inequality is also seen at large scale in the society. Monopoly over the means of production by a particular group. Poverty and problems like unemployment are also creating other problems. Another dimension of inequality is the inequality between rural and urban sector. Social inequality. Indian society is traditionally based on caste system. In the caste system, the upper caste is at the top of the social system, while at the bottom lower caste is placed. The scheduled caste and scheduled tribes and the other backward classes are considered as backward. Caste-based prejudice, economic inequality and educational backwardness are the main reasons for their backwardness. The caste system in India is basically defined by their occupation. But with passage of time, changes in this belief can be seen today. The relationship between caste and occupation cannot be denied. A. Scheduled caste. In India, a person is known by his caste. The members of scheduled caste are at the lowest rank in the term of social status. There are also ascending and descending castes within them. These communities are not given any status in our traditional classification of caste system, which is why they are also known as Avarna or Pancham Varna. Because of inhuman behavior with these backward and most backward communities, their condition was pitiable. The scheduled caste people were allowed to live only outside the town limits. Even today, also many from these communities live outside of town. They are not allowed to use public well, pond or other such public places. They are deprived of entry to the religious places and denied participation in social life. They are living a life of various types of deprivation. They have received civil equality only after independence, due to the constitutional provisions. In Indian Constitution, they are included as scheduled caste and such provisions have been made to provide them justice. The scheduled caste is a constitutional category. B. Scheduled tribes. Scheduled tribes are generally referred to as Adivasi. Generally, they live in areas away from the plain in the forest, interior regions, and mountainous areas. They have been isolated from the rest of the society. It was during British rule that they were delineated for the first time and were given a special identification. These communities live in various parts of India. Their population is concentrated mainly in Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Northeast states, Rajasthan, Gujarat, hilly areas of Andaman and Nicobar. Their traditional way of life is distributed by mines, dams, industrialization, etc. The main sources of their livelihood like forest products, agricultural land, etc. are being westerned from them. A challenge has arisen against their distinctive identity, social system, values and traditional culture. To bring them into mainstream of India, various provisions have been made in our constitution. Constitutional remedies for removal of social inequalities. All the citizens of India are given fundamental rights and all the citizens are equal before law and entitled to equal legal protection. It has been classified in the Constitution that state will not discriminate between cities on the basis of caste, religion, sex, race, place of birth, or any such basis. No discrimination will be practiced for the use of wells, roads, lake, etc. The practice of untouchability has been declared unconstitutional and made punishable offence under the law. Through Constitution has abolished untouchability, a lot remains to be done in this direction. Untouchability is still being practiced in several parts of country. Even today, the members of scheduled caste have a slope for their livelihood. A big proportion of the scheduled caste consists of landless agricultural laborers. They have little control over means of production like land, water, and forest. We have made law for ownership of land, but the desired result has not been received. Even today, ill treatment of these communities happens. The incidents of atrocities and violence against the members of scheduled caste are being reported in daily newspaper and other media. One reason for this is the increasing awareness of the member of this community about their rights. The scheduled caste have opportunities to decide their own fate and lives without support from others. But due to the traditional prejudice and mentality, their development is thwarted, thus continuously facing struggles in their lives. As stated in Constitutional, if the state makes special provisions for the weaker section like scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and the socially and educationally backward classes, this cannot be considered a violation of the rights of equality. Reservation has been provided to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in the parliamentary and legislative assemblies and in the Institute of Local Self-Government. In the local self-government, a reservation has been made for women also. In Gujarat, this reservation has been increased up to 50% from the year 2015. Besides, reservation has been provided to them in educational institutions and government jobs. Because of this, the rate of literacy has gone high in this community, and we find a number of people from these sections in various government jobs. The directive principles of state policy also call upon the state to take special steps to advance the social and economic interests of the weaker sections of the society. Various policies, schemes, and programs have been formulated and implemented for the welfare and advancement of these communities. Consequently, some change has certainly occurred in the condition of scheduled caste. Some of them have got an opportunity to rise in the social, cultural, and political sphere. However, the benefits of these constitutional provisions have not reached to those who are on the margins of the society. Very few scheduled castes and scheduled tribes have been benefited by the reservation policy and achieved their due position in society due to change in social and economic change. In terms of literacy too, the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes are much behind the other castes. The rate of enrollment in school for students of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes is much below than that of other categories. Even the dropout rate is also higher among them. Especially girls of the scheduled caste sections leave their schools for various reasons. The social and economic inequality among this community is a major challenge for the Indian democracy. Through efforts have been made to remove such backwardness and inequality, but enough progress has not been achieved. A lot is required to be done in this direction. Economic inequality. India was among the poorest countries of the world at the time of independence. Poverty and economic inequality have been the biggest economic problem for India after independence. Since last 6 to 7 decades, the government has made sustained attempts to remove poverty and economic inequality. In spite of poverty alleviation programs, a large number of the population still live in poor condition. Poverty. In general sense, poverty means lack of opportunities to live a healthy and constructive life. In other words, poverty means lack of amenities that are absolutely necessary for a person or his family, like nutrition, food, clothing, primary education, health, housing, etc. Generally, poverty is measured by the poverty line. There are various views and arguments regarding what should be the poverty line. With regards to the parameters to decide the poverty line, it has always remained a controversial subject. Thus, a universal accepted definition of poverty cannot be given. In spite of that, Planning Commission, that is now Niti Aayog, defines poverty from time to time, the acceptance of which through is questionable through some perspectives. Poverty eradication programs in India. Almost 1/3 population of India lives below the poverty line. This prevalence of poverty is not uniform across the country. Bihar, Jharkhand, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, part of West Bengal, and Tamil Nadu have higher incidence of poverty than the national average. The leaders of national movement were quite conscious of the economic condition of India and the problem of extensive poverty. Apart from poverty, even other problems like unemployment, starvation, illiteracy, inequality of wealth and income, etc. existed at the time of our independence. Serious attention was not given to poverty and poverty eradication programs in the initial year after achieving independence. It was believed that poverty would automatically reduce as the process of development takes off. But visible change was not observed. Real attention to the problem of poverty and programs of poverty eradication was focused as late as the 6th five-year plan. Thereafter, programs for poverty eradication were launched. The objective of these programs was to uplift the people below poverty line and bring them above poverty line. Accordingly, several schemes covering rural poor and the landless laborers have been formulated. Government is trying to provide them food, grain at fair price, fuel and other items of basic necessity to them. Various types of housing schemes for poor are also implemented. Besides, various programs have been designed to provide employment at the time of natural calamities like drought, flood, etc. From the year 2006, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act has been implemented, which is known as Manrega. This is an employment guarantee act under which a person is guaranteed provision of a minimum 100 days of employment during the year, and there is a provision under which if the employment is not available, then the laborer are paid unemployment allowance. This scheme is gaining lots of popularity and also getting attention at international levels. Despite such programs for eradication of poverty, the condition of poor has not improved to satisfactory levels. It is believed that indifference and inefficiencies of the bureaucracy, corruption, and maladministration are responsible for that. Apart from this, the lack of political will for the implementation of the law, influence of vested interest, and lack of awareness among the poor and the deprived communities are also responsible for it. In short, a large proportion of people still live in poverty. Considerable development has taken place in agriculture, industry, transportation, business, and employment, technology, communication, etc. But the fruits of this development have not reached to the economically backward and deprived section of the society. A majority of the benefits of these programs have remained confined to the higher caste and influential section of the society. The incidence of poverty have reduced. But we are not succeeding in reducing the inequalities. Thus, the challenges of poverty and inequality continue as challenges to the Indian democracy. Consequently, several tensions surface in our society, all of which pose serious challenges to democracy. On the other hand, even as the poor and the deprived section of the Indian society might be incapable of doing anything else, they can certainly play an influential role in the process of political change. Through voting in election, they have proved that they are in a majority, and if they organize themselves well, they can influence the outcomes of election. If socio-economic inequalities continue to rise, or if there is no significant reduction in them, the domain of social tension and political violence would take a dangerous form and create a major threat for democracy. Illiteracy. Education plays an important role in development of any society or country. It has a decisive influence on the social and economic development. It is helpful in creating an enlightened civil society. It is an imperative precondition for the success of democracy and national development. The countries which have achieved high level of education and literacy have also scaled new height of economic development. Thus, one cannot overemphasize the importance of education for success of democracy and for the development of society and country. Even after years of independence, in India the rate of illiteracy is very high. At the time of independence, the number of people who could read and write was 6 crore, which was about 18% the total population. That means 30 crore were illiterate out of the total population of 36 crore. This literacy was confined to the so-called higher caste and urban middle class. The extent of illiteracy was highest among the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, minorities, other backward classes, and most of the rural people and female. It was the demand of the time to provide basic primary education to crores of people, and so many programs were launched. As a result, we have good progress in literacy. According to the census of 2011, the rate of literacy has reached 74.04%. The male literacy has reached to 84.12%, while female literacy rate has reached to 65.46%. This can be considered a significant accomplishment, but compared to our expectations and requirements, it is not a satisfactory situation. It is a matter of concern that even today the number of illiterates is very high in India. Progress toward literacy. The farmers of our constitution have accepted the role of education and accordingly have made provisions regarding this. Article 45 of the Directive Principles of the State Policy enjoins the state to make provisions for free and compulsory education for all children between 6 to 14 years of age within 10 years of implementation of the Constitution. To study the status of education, government appointed Kothari Commission on 1964 to 1966. The Kothari Commission made a detailed study of the education system of India. According to this report, the reasons accounting for the failure to achieve universalization of education are lack of adequate resources, growth in population, social prejudice against education of girl child, widespread poverty, indifference of parents, their illiteracy, etc. To face the challenges of modern time and equip the education system, accordingly a committee of educationists was appointed. The committee prepared a draft of new education policy. The Parliament approved this draft as the New Education Policy 1986. Under this policy, all the children below 14 years should be provided free primary education. There should be an improvement in the quality of education. There should be efforts to provide education to the weaker section of the society and also to augment the financial resource for education. For this purpose, different programs have been formulated. Special efforts are made to encourage the children of the weaker section to enroll in schools and ensure that they do not discontinue schooling in between. Midday meal scheme has been introduced to provide nutrition food to children in the school in itself. Time-to-time medical examinations are also conducted for school children. For primary and secondary education, the central government provides special grants to states. Under this program, education of the girl child has been specially emphasized. To increase the capacity of primary schools, a campaign called Operation Blackboard was launched in the year 1987 to 1988. The National Literacy Campaign was initiated from 1988 as a part of the new National Education Policy. This campaign aims at achieving total literacy and making all persons between 15 to 35 years of age fully illiterate. To spread the illiteracy and primary education substantially, informal education has been arranged in schools, at doorsteps of the people's home, and at the public places. The cooperation from the voluntary organizations has been taken and they have been provided financial assistance. In particular, efforts have been made to arrange for night school for the children of weaker section and establish such non-formal education facilities near the place of residence. Along with such non-formal education, programs of continuous education have also been put in place. To remove illiteracy, presently Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan has been initiated. In some states of India, the rate of literacy according to 2011 census is very high, like in Kerala 94%, Lakshadweep 91.85%, Mizoram 91.33%, and Goa 88.70%, while in some states it is very low, like in Jharkhand 66.41%, Arunachal Pradesh 65.38%, and Bihar 61.80%. The rate of literacy is 78.30% in Gujarat. The average literacy rate of the nation is 74.04%. But here also the rate of literacy among females is low. Thus, despite all efforts, we have not been able to achieve the goal of total literacy. From the year 2010, Right to Education Act, that is RTE, has been initiated, under which the aim is that not a single child of India should remain illiterate. Considering the importance of education, it has been included in the fundamental rights. Apart from the under fundamental duty, it has been stated that it is responsibility of the parents to see that a child between the ages of 6 to 14 years gets education. By incorporating education in the fundamental rights, we have recognized the importance of education and the special attention has been given to education. In short, it can be said that to achieve the target of total literacy and bringing awareness for education, cooperation of all, and cooperative efforts are required. Regional imbalance. India is a country of diversities. We have initiated a gigantic effort to achieve and maintain unity in diversity after independence. We can achieve this only if we are able to promote balanced development of the country by reducing the regional imbalance. Meaning: regional imbalance means wide disparity between different regions of the country in terms of per capita income, rate of literacy, facilities of health and other amenities, means of transportation and communication, employment opportunity and industrializations, etc. Reasons behind regional imbalance. Several reasons and factors are responsible for regional imbalance in India. This include colonial legacy, degree of urbanization and industrialization, imbalance growth in the means of transportation, imbalance in infrastructure facilities, etc. We know the root of regional imbalance was rooted in colonial legacy. British government was not interested in overall and balanced development of country. Their main aim was economic exploitation of the country. To achieve this, it concentrated on the development of particular areas of some region and neglected the other areas. They were interested in development for the purpose of business and industries rather than the keeping view on the need of the people. Moreover, the British rulers were interested in the collection of revenue, which is why they introduced Jamindari policy. As a result, productivity and fertility of land was neglected and it increased regional imbalance. The process of urbanization started in the last 2 centuries also contributed to the regional imbalance. Due to the commercial policies of the British government, some ports and areas surrounding the ports were developed. Later, these ports became big cities. Thus, the coastal areas developed rapidly while the interior areas were left behind in the process of development. Concentrated development of the railway, roads and bridge and transportation has also contributed to the increasing regional disparities. Efforts for balanced development. We adopted the strategy of centralized planning to achieve the socio-economic development of the country. One of the objectives of planning was to reduce regional disparities and accomplish balanced regional growth. There were 2 principal agencies for this task. 1. Planning Commission. 2. Finance Commission, which is appointed every 5 years. The main function of the Planning Commission was to draft 5-year plan for the balanced socio-economic development of the country so that more resources can be allotted for the rapid development of backward states and regions. For the year 2015, the Planning Commission has been replaced by Niti Aayog. Now it is known as Niti Aayog instead of Planning Commission. The Finance Commission determines the basis of the distribution of revenue between the central and state governments. One of the objectives of this distribution is also to reduce regional imbalance. Despite historical determinate regional imbalance and planned development processes initiated after independence, we have not been able to realize this goal fully. The difference between different states and different areas of the same state in the term of agriculture, industry, transportation, favorable condition for investment, infrastructural facilities, etc. are very visible. Because of this development in some states has been rapid, while development of other states has been sluggish. Linguistic chauvinism. Language is a powerful medium of social interaction and exchange of the ideas and sentiments. Language spoken in an area creates a sense of unity and harmony among its speakers. Language is an important link that binds people. At the same time, it can also become a factor for creating division among them. Just as language is a powerful factor binding its speaker into a sentimental bond, it can also become a factor that divides them from the speakers of the other language. In multilingual societies, language becomes a division factor sometimes. People residing in a particular region and speaking one language have a feeling of greatness about their region and language, and for other region and language, they feel displeasure. The feeling emerging from such behavior can be called regional and linguistic chauvinism. Such feeling of regional and linguistic chauvinism is injurious for a nation and is also dangerous for democracy. The question of official language arose after independence. It was decided in the Constitutional Assembly that Hindi written in Devanagari script would be the official language of the country. English was permitted to be used as another official language for next 15 years. However, as soon as the efforts to make Hindi the official language of Hindi commenced, this move was strongly observed in southern India, especially in Tamil Nadu, where violent anti-Hindi agitation started. As a reaction to this, Remove English movement started in northern India, especially in Uttar Pradesh. Thus, such intense dispute between the North and South India was created over the question of official language, and many apprehended that the country may be divided on this ground. Finally, the controversy was resolved by allowing English as another official language along with Hindi. Acute regionalism and linguistic chauvinism emerged in India over the question of linguistic recognition of states. During the 50s, the demand for the recognition of states on linguistic basis gradually became stronger. On the issues of language, many acute disputes and violent agitation also occurred. During this period, linguistic chauvinism took ugly shape, as a result of which an atmosphere of bitterness and intolerance developed among the people speaking different languages. But now the intolerance on the ground of language is not very prominent. In the present time, issues of language are not a serious problem as a challenge for national unity. This is because of popularity and impact of Hindi films and channels of television. Also, people are migrated to other places for employment, and in such a situation, knowledge of Hindi in capacity of reading and writing has become popular. The scope of Hindi is increasing day by day. Persons belonging to middle and higher class insist for their children's education in English medium. And so, along with Hindi, the importance and popularity of English is also increasing. Regionalism. A kind of sentimental relationship develops between a man and the regional or the area where he is born and brought up and where he lived for a fairly long period of time, generation after generation. He feels a sense of harmony and united with other people speaking his language. We generally call such sentiments regionalism. Such feeling gives us a sense of identity and pride. However, when the sentiments for one's own region become narrow, and when other regions ignore such sentiments, they acquire a more intense form. When the feeling of intolerance and hatred for other people are also added to one's sentiments, and the feeling of superiority toward others persists, then it becomes a threat of democracy. If a feeling of hatred and intolerance is added to that, Then the feeling of regionalism creates negativity which is dangerous for democracy and threat for national unity. Several reasons and factors are responsible for the growth of regionalist sentiments in our country. Not only the historical and geographical factors, but regional imbalance is also responsible for such sentiments. Unequal distribution of opportunities for development, the feeling of indifference and stepmotherly treatment to one's region, the use of one's regions for development of other regions, and fear of being reduced to a minority in one state due to influence of outsiders, the fear of loss of distinctive identity, the imbalanced distribution of the opportunities of economic development, the political, economic, and other inequalities prevailing between the regions, etc., depend the feeling of regionalism. This play an important role in creating a feeling of secessionism. Due to regionalism, many regional political parties have emerged. These regional parties are more concerned about benefit of their region and pride of region rather than benefit of nation. In Punjab, Akali Dal. In Tamil Nadu, DMK and AIADMK. In Andhra Pradesh, Telugu Desam. In Maharashtra, Shiv Sena, Maharashtra Navnirman Sena, that is Manse. In Jammu and Kashmir, National Conference and PDP, etc. have emerged and developed. Some of these parties have demanded autonomy for their state. Thus, regionalism has given various challenges for unity of nation. In spite of that, we have continued our efforts to create a balance among regions. Secessionism. Secessionism means a desire of one province to separate from the country. There is some difference between regionalism and secessionism. If for some reason people living in India demand a separate state for them and carry out peaceful agitation, we can call them phenomenal regionalism. However, if such groups become violent and convert themselves into rebellious people and initiate movement for secession from the country and establishment of a separate sovereign state, then it becomes secessionism. Thus, there is a difference between demand for autonomy and a separate sovereign state from country. An autonomous state is created while remaining within the country and a separate state by separating from the country and establishing a different state. Thus, in the process of secessionism, the country divides. Such secessionism is dangerous for integration and unity of the country. In our country, several agitations have been carried out for granting of separate statehood within the framework of the Indian state. The creation of Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, and recently Telangana are examples of this. The Mizo and Nag tribes of northeast state of Assam carried out separatist and at times violent activities for long. Not merely that, but they also carried out violent movement. However, at last their demands have been satisfied by granting them separate state within the framework of the Indian Constitution. Several groups are still carrying out insurgency for the formation of separate and independent state. In the initial decades after independence, a demand for the creation of separate and independent state of Dravidstan outside the Indian Union was raised in the southern state of Tamil Nadu. This demand was dropped later. Similarly, a movement is being carried out in Jammu and Kashmir for the establishment of an independent Kashmir state since long. Despite the fact that the state of Jammu and Kashmir has been granted special status under Article 370 of the Constitution of India, various secessionist groups exist in Kashmir. These groups have resorted to violent and terrorist activities with active support from Pakistan. The problem of Jammu and Kashmir is really a challenge to national unity. No state can accept such narrow demand for separation from the country. If the people making such demands resort violence, terrorism, coercion, and threats, then the state should also suppress such movement with a strong hand. Thus, the movements of regionalism and secessionism and violence arising out of them and forces used to suppress them harm the democratic political system. Political violence. When we talk about political violence, we generally refer to organized violence committed by the state itself or the violence committed by an organized group. To address the need for law and order, to prevent internal conflict in the state and the violent conflict of different groups, the state takes help of police forces, paramilitary forces, and may use the army as the last resort. On the other hand, people resort to violence to express their discontent, hopelessness, and desperation. Generally, and the violence against state that target public properties, street lights, etc., and resort to murder. Guerrilla warfare, civil war, etc. types of violence against the state. Both these types of violence committed by people against the state and the violence committed by state against the people have considerably increased in India in the past few years. Violence ultimately is countered by violence. When violence or force is used to achieve one's political end, it takes the form of terrorism. Since last few years, terrorism has raised its head worldwide. This has become an issue of concern for whole world. Jammu and Kashmir, northeastern states in past, Punjab are considered terrorism-prone areas. We should not forget that two of our Prime Ministers Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi were killed by terrorists. Now, Laxalists are acting like terrorists to create violence. As violence and terrorism increase, the state will have to adopt more stringent and effective steps. On the other hand, if a state terrorists its people and harasses its citizens, it cannot nourish democracy. Such a state can hardly be called democratic. Casteism. Casteism is a peculiar character of Indian society. Caste is such a social system where a person gets a status by birth. Here, the status which one gets is also the status of the caste in the society. That is why caste is in ascending and descending order in the society. This status cannot be changed. After the British rule, some change has occurred in the caste system. Along with education, the values of liberty and brotherhood increased in India. Along with industrialization, urbanization also started. People coming from villages to urban areas to work in the factories were working without a feeling of caste difference. They started eating together and traveling together in the buses and train. Due to dense population of city life, they started staying together. Thus, in urban area, there was heavy reduction in the differentiation resulting from caste. Apart from that, due to the fundamental rights given by Constitution, also there is change in pattern of caste. Before independence, lower caste people were trying to consider them as upper caste, but after getting special provisions in the Constitution of India, like reservation policy, people have started considering themselves as backward. Sometimes, to satisfy the interest of a caste, or if the pressure of caste is used to favor a particular caste, then such behavior is called casteism. In a democratic state, casteism cannot be considered as a welcome step. The narrow concept of casteism devalues the concept of democracy. In a democratic system, the idea of independence, equality, and brotherhood should be the foremost. The binding of caste narrows down the opponents of person. Not merely that, the feeling of upper caste and lower caste does not stay ignored, and that hurts the idea of equality. We know that caste has divided the Indian society in small groups, and if the feeling of casteism is supported, then it will harm the feeling of nationality. People prefer to hire their own caste person in jobs or business. Because of this, sometimes eligible and deserving candidates lose the chance for their development. The entire process of development gets affected. Caste and casteism in politics. The role of caste is very important in day-to-day social life. At the same time, we have to take note that the universal right of voting and in the politics of majority, caste plays an important role. In a democratic state, small caste groups join hands with upper caste for political purpose, while opponent political party to get support of the caste tries to break that association and divide them politically. Thus, caste and politics influence each other. One political party tries to get support of one caste, while other political party tries to get support of other caste. In the initial stage, the caste may influence the politics due to large number, but at last, caste itself is influenced by politics and the power of caste reduces. At the time of elections, the candidate is selected looking to the caste factor and their majority in the area of candidature. People prefer to vote the candidate of their own caste so that the interest of the caste is protected. In a complex political system, people mostly favor their own caste. All this process gives rise to casteism and support them. Casteism influences the Indian political system at large. All this hamper the growth of healthy political system. Education is the only important and effective tool to remove the problem of casteism. Along with education, the process of modernization like urbanization, industrialization, etc. can change the narrow mentality of casteism. By establishing the value of democracy and accepting it as a tradition of life, the inanimate and immature mentality of caste can be removed. Communalism. The biggest threat against our democracy and national unity is that of communalism or sectarianism. They visit the central values of our culture like tolerance, liberty, brotherhood, and harmonious relationship. Communalism is defined as when people belonging and belonging to a particular sect have a feeling of belongingness to that community. In other words, it can be said that people believing in a particular traditional and cultural values are known as a caste group or community. They have a feeling of belongingness to that community and it is natural also. One can also understand if some person makes efforts for that welfare and upliftment of their community. But when the person of one community considers the person of other community with hatred, prejudice, enmity or revenge, then they become communalist. We may also say that when religion turns into fierceness, then it becomes perverse and is known as communalism. Communalist is a force behind breaking unity among the people of different sects living in same state. Sometimes communalism turns violent. The communal riots between Hindus and Muslims are examples of that. Due to communal riots, the difference among two groups increasing and it keeps on increasing continuously. As a result, the feeling of distrust and suspension increases and it results into communal riots. If such sentiments are aroused for securing, maintaining or expanding political power, communalism acquires a political color. In other words, when religion is used for political purpose, then communalism acquires political color and it becomes dangerous. Such communalism is a threat both to democracy and national unity because It creates a feeling of intolerance and divides the society into different communities. History has witnessed to the role played by communalism in partition of India. During the freedom movement by establishment of Muslim League, the difference between Hindu and Muslim increased, and as a result, India got divided and Pakistan was born. The farmers of our constitution have given us freedom of religion through fundamental rights, and by doing so, they have shown their strategic future vision. In the preamble of the constitution, it has been included that India shall be a secular country. The secularism is the basic structure of the constitution. Naxalism. The term Naxalist emerged from a small village, Naxalbari in West Bengal, where in 1967, Indian communist leaders Charu Majumdar and Kannu Sanyal started an armed movement against the government. They believe that government policies are responsible for poor condition of Indian laborers and farmers. They believe that due to unjustifiable policy, the upper caste is ruling. This exploiting and suppressing rule can only be ended through revolution. In 1967, Naxalite constituted a co-coordination committee with left-wing extremists and started an armed revolution against government. This violent group of left-wings is called Naxalite. In eastern state of India, West Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, this group is known as Maoist. The government often declared them as terrorists because of their illegal activities. The Naxalite of eastern states are influenced by the ideology of Mao Zedong and they also appreciate him. They are known as Maoists. The Naxalites started violence on behalf of poor landless laborers for return of the land and to protect poor and unemployed section of society against atrocity of landlords. These Naxalites believe that the government policies and power are the root cause of the issues, so they target IAS officers, other higher rank officers, police officers and their employees and soldiers of the Indian Army and kill them. Initially, the center for Naxalite was West Bengal, but later on this group spread in other states like Chhattisgarh, Orissa and Andhra Pradesh and some rural areas and less developed regions of eastern part. Today, many states of our country are under the influence of Naxalites. The violent activities of Naxalite are resulting in killing of government officers and employees through exploitation of the poor security system of country. Two classes of people have emerged, one supporting Naxalite and another opposing Naxalites. All these issues are challenging our national unity. The government of India is taking strict action against Naxalists and also trying to fulfill their responsible demands. Terrorism. The word terrorism has emerged from Latin word terror. The meaning of the word terror is an activity which results in severing or a state of returning. The general meaning of terrorism is considering as an act which creates terror by terrorizing to achieve their motives. Here, terror is the motive of the act. When any person or a group of people or organization creates fear to fulfill their demand or motive, then that person is known as terrorist and group of such people are known as terrorist group or terrorist organizations. When terrorists are not successful in getting their demands fulfilled directly, they use violent attack and damage life and property, transportation, important public places, security personnel, armed depot, etc. to create terror. Through they may have very less chances of successfully in attaining such an act. They do manage to destroy it and create devastation. Terrorists get success in creating terror due to their strategy of attack. They do not hesitate in killing innocent people. because their main aim is to create terror. Terrorism can be seen at two levels. One, at local level, which means within the state. Two, international level, which means such terrorism network is spread at international level and whose branches are spread in various countries. Many countries provide shelter to such terrorists and help them in all matters, provide them training and also support them. In India, since many years terrorism has created havoc. After independence, terrorism has been seen constantly in some or other part of India, sometimes in the form of Naxalites or sometimes in the form of secessionism. In Jammu and Kashmir, many terrorist groups like Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, that is JKLF, Hizbul Mujahideen, Harkat-ul-Ansar, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e Mohammed, etc. are very active and operating through their terrorist activities. It has to be mentioned that they are supported by our neighboring countries. Some groups are active at international level. In eastern part of India, Nagaland, Mizoram and Manipur, groups like Naga, National Council and People's Liberation Army are known for their terrorist activities. In Punjab, during 80s, Bhindranwale demanded a separated state Khalistan with the help of terrorist association. All India Sikh Student Federation and Babbar Khalsa through terrorist act damage life and property on a large scale. In the northern part of India along with Haryana and Delhi, they created great deal of terror. Regrettably, our late Prime Minister Miss Indira Gandhi was killed by them. Over a period of time, these associations have been slowly decimated. In same way in Assam, ULFA and DODO separatist groups have created havoc and they are known to all. In Sri Lanka, the violent struggle of liberation Tiger of Tamil Eelam, that is LTTE, for creation of a separate Tamil state is another example of terrorist activities. Here, it is to be noted that our ex-Prime Minister Sri Rajiv Gandhi was killed by a woman suicide bomber. Presently, this organization is not in existence. Before some time, this group has also been decimated. Thus, our two Prime Ministers become victims of terrorism. In India's series of bomb blasts, terrorist attacks on Parliament on 13 December 2001, attacked on Akshardhan Temple at Gandhinagar, Gujarat, attacked on Taj Mahal in Mumbai on 26 November 2008 are some of terrorist attacks that took place. On 11 September 2001, a terrorist attack on World Trade Center in America caused miserable losses of life and property and created havoc worldwide. In a reaction to this, America declared a war against the terrorist group Al-Qaeda, which was responsible for this terror act. As a result of the sustained act, the leader of this association, Osama bin Laden, was killed. Presently, the terrorism can be seen at international level and their activities are spreading worldwide. This matter has become a concern for most of the countries. The terrorist associations established at international level are in contact with each other. They exchange information, equipment, money, weapons, etc. The latest developments in information technology, communication, and mobile services have provided them opportunity for operation. As a result, a situation has emerged where boundaries are not important. Presently, terror is being spread worldwide by Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, that is ISIS. The head of ISIS is adamant to spread Islam worldwide through terrorism. In fight against terrorism at international level, the role of United Nations, that is UN, has remained very constructive and it is providing leadership in this direction. A constant dialogue is on to end terrorism. It is very obvious that the reasons which give birth to terrorism, if removed, will lead to the end of terrorism. If certain steps are taken like reduction in inequalities socially and politically and economically inequalities, law related to land reform and good administrations, then we can reduce terrorism up to certain level. Terrorism of across border has become a matter of concern for India. Thus, we are facing terrorism internal as well as external both. By strengthening the democratic institution and encouraging people's participation in governance, we can meet these challenges. A strong feeling that we are all citizens of one country will inspire us to address the above-mentioned challenges.